9 to 5 is for chumps. It's for chumps and it's for normies. Because not all 9 to 5 workers are chumps. Some of them are basically just going to adult daycare all day and getting paid for it. Just LARPing as workers, essentially. More on that in a minute. It's actually pretty funny. But if you are in a chump 9 to 5 position, you can get out of it. You don't have to work a regular job where you clock in and clock out and wake up early to an alarm 5 days a week. But for most people that don't have an obvious way out, I don't think you'll find the alternative to be preferable. I will tell you what you can do if you really want to get out of the 9 to 5 lifestyle, but really you're probably not going to like it. And by the way, I'm not saying this to offend anybody. Pretty much everybody at some point in their life has to work a regular job, 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever the hours, it's all the same. So I don't have anything against anybody doing what they have to do. And if you really don't mind your 9 to 5, maybe you even enjoy it, great, that's good. Can't really say you're a chump if you're getting paid doing something you enjoy, but generally speaking, the whole 9 to 5 system is designed to take advantage of you. It's literally designed to exploit people. I'm actually going to be breaking it down and giving you a detailed overview of a typical corporate structure here in a minute. So hopefully that might make things more clear. But most people definitely do not enjoy the corporate 9 to 5 lifestyle. I think that's pretty obvious. Most people, if they won the $400 million Powerball lottery or whatever, they would quit their job the next day. Even these LARPer normies that are basically just using their workplace as a social club, nobody wants to wake up to an alarm and have to be beholden to a set schedule with minimal flexibility. Nobody wants that. So what do you call a person that is getting taken advantage of, that knows they're getting taken advantage of, but they still keep doing it? I think you'd have to call that person a chump. And again, to be clear, I do understand. 9 to 5 is probably the best option that most people can manage. And not everyone has parents that'll let them live with them into their mid-30s. I am speaking from a position of privilege. I understand that, okay? I am aware of that. I am a loser. I'm a broke loser. That's true. But I'm not a chump, and I'm not a normie. I guess my parents are the chumps in this scenario for supporting me through all my stubbornness. I love them though, and I do still hope that I can reverse the roles someday. If I ever do actually end up making anything of myself, I do plan to take care of my parents. I'm actually considering just giving my mom a couple $100s a month or something like that for rent, now that I have actually been making a little more from this channel. But anyways, that's not what I want to talk about in this video. What I do want to talk about is the extremely lopsided deal that the average 9 to 5 employee has with their employer. And I want to talk about how you probably can quit the 9 to 5 right now and start working on your own time. But again, for most people, it's not actually a better alternative. And I think you'll see what I mean when I get into it. And I'm also going to talk about how certain people, normies, as they're often called, they're not really even working. They just LARP. And their job is more like an extension of high school. It's like a social club or a daycare, basically. It's actually kind of humiliating too, working a 9 to 5, that is. Your employer is your lord. Like literally, they are your lord. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that. But the thing about working 9 to 5 And again, I'm not only talking about literally 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., I'm talking about any regular job where you are employed by a company and you're required to work some set hours for a set rate of pay. The thing about it that's always bothered me the most, nobody actually works the whole time that they're at work. I've worked different kinds of jobs. I've worked in a factory, I've worked in a white-collar office environment, and I've worked fast food. I was in the fast food game for years. And in all these jobs, nobody's actually working for the full 8-hour shift, or 9 or 10 hours, however long your shift is. Nobody actually works for the entire time. Sometimes, like in fast food, for example, the workers do have to be there even if there's no work to do, because you could have a customer come in at any time. So that at least makes sense. But these white-collar jobs, there's no reason why you should have to be sitting there in the office for 9 hours when you're only doing maybe 2 or 3 hours of actual work in an average day. And I know everyone tries to pretend they're working the whole time because you don't want the boss to find out, but I think a lot of times the bosses know. They're just keeping you there because they like having serfs underneath them. You're just part of their estate. You're not even necessarily an asset. You're just like a decoration to be on display for when the board of directors visits. And I think a lot of young women in these office jobs, young normie women, nobody actually thinks these girls are working. Even when they give them tasks to do, it's just like, water the plants, Rebecca. Send an email to the catering company. Kaylee. Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. You're a great software engineer. Perfect marks on your performance review. You got to get that ESG score up for the investors. But really, I think, these normie young ladies, they get these jobs, these white-collar office jobs, and they sit there sending like 2 or 3 emails a day, taking pictures of their desk with like a folder and a couple markers maybe and some kind of overpriced latte or a matcha or something. They pop that up on Instagram with a caption like, "Workflow, love this job." And they don't even realize the reason the company has them there is just because the boss just likes the feeling of having a bunch of young women underneath him. They're LARPing. Everybody's LARPing. The boss is LARPing like he's Genghis Khan with his harem of 20-something-year-old office ornaments. And the little worker bee girlies with their $9 lattes and their yoga pants, they're LARPing like they're actually working hard. I'm sure some of these fresh out of college, white-collar ladies, they sit there doing nothing all day. Maybe if they're a software engineer, they might put in a pull request to change a font somewhere or something. That's how girl bosses do software engineering, in case you didn't know. But they sit there and they're thinking, wow, I'm really doing it. I'm basically living life just like my dad. I'm just like my dad. I work a job. Look at me. But they don't actually do anything that you could reasonably classify as work. I think that's why Gen Z women are out-earning Gen Z men, and way more Gen Z women are employed compared to men. It's because those jobs don't actually need to exist in the first place. There was never actually a real job opening. Some guy in the company just wanted to add another young woman to his collection. Freshly graduated, degreed young women are like Funko Pops for corporate vice presidents. They're just collecting them just to have them. That's part of the whole DEI diversity thing too. You think these middle-aged and elderly corporate executives actually care about workplace diversity? They're just trying to collect every type. Oh, we got 3 brunettes. We got a couple thick ones. We got almost every East Asian country now. All we need is Korea, and then we'll have the full set. Let's see if we can get a Korean. Then they put up a job posting for a front-end developer or something. That's how these companies are doing their hiring. It's just a bunch of boomers LARPing as Genghis Khan and a bunch of young ladies LARPing as their own dad. And somewhere in the mix, probably down in some basement office with no windows, there's a couple guys in there working long hours, keeping the company in the green, working their butts off. Those are the chumps. They'll have the same job title as their coworker, Vanessa, Nessa for short. But the chumps can't get away with wearing yoga pants to work. And they can't just sit at their desk all day, taking pictures of their coffee mug next to a succulent and posting it up on Instagram. The chumps actually do work. But even then, most chumps also don't work more than a few hours a day. No human can actually work efficiently for more than maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, especially with mental work. Nobody can do it. The human brain just can't focus that much in one stretch. I remember when I worked as an engineer, there would be some days where I technically worked on CAD drawings or something for 7 straight hours. I always took an hour for lunch because even when I'm a chump, I'm not a total chump, okay? I was only supposed to take 30 minutes for lunch, but yeah, there were some days where I technically worked for 7 straight hours, but after 3 or 4 hours, I really wasn't getting much done. My productivity was very, very low after just a few hours. I might as well have just gone home. Or you know what? Maybe if they would have sent over one of the young ladies from the LARP department over to the chump department where I worked after lunchtime to, give me some sloppy motivation for the rest of the day. Maybe if they did that, then I could have kept my productivity up. Honestly, that would have been better for everybody. My productivity would have increased. One of the LARPers would have actually had something to do that day. I don't think my dad ever did anything like this at his job. Shut up, Kaylee. Go channel your emotions into a thought-provoking caption for your next TikTok video that you're making while you're on the clock. But seriously, there's very few people in this world that can actually sit and work productively for more than 4 hours at a time. There are people that can do that, and I think most people can go longer than that on occasion, but nobody's staying productive for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Outside of a very small number of hyper-autists, like somebody like John Carmack, for example, someone like that can do that, but the vast, vast majority of people, there's no way. You're not working productively for 8 hours a day. So the average corporate hierarchy is at the top, you've got the exploiter tier. These are the real movers and shakers of the world. The founders and CEOs. The people all the way at the top. They do a bit of LARPing, a little bit of Genghis Khan harem master LARPing, but for the most part, they just stay out of the day-to-day LARPerations, and they just leave that to the next tier. So after the exploiter tier, there's the Ash Ketchum, gotta catch 'em all tier, the collectors tier. These are the presidents, vice presidents, heads of departments, etc. These are the guys that are full-on Alexander the Great LARPing, just up in the office Xerxes LARPing. They're trying to collect every special edition Funko Pop, so to speak, so they create jobs, ostensibly because the job is needed, but really it's just because they're trying to reel in a half Latina, half Cantonese marketing professional or whatever to add to their collection. And usually they don't even try to boink these ladies. They just want them there in their collection just to show off when the investors come to visit. And also just because it makes them feel like they're freaking Darius the Great or something. When they walk around the office and they see their collection of educated young women all just wearing yoga pants and maxi dresses or whatever, taking pictures of their coffee mugs. Every now and then throughout the day, when they really want to feel powerful, they might go over to Kaylee's cubicle and ask her to email one of the vendors or something. You know, some small task just so they can both LARP for a moment. It's a mutually beneficial interaction. But yeah, that's the collector's tier. Next on the hierarchical org chart is the Funko Pops themselves. These strong, independent, highly educated women with their lattes and their yoga pants. You know, it's Lululemons and Labubu keychains all the way down. Not much to say here that hasn't been said already. These chicks are just LARPing. They think they're working hard for a living, just like their dad. But yeah, they just browse social media and take pictures of their drinks. Pretty much, that's what they do. And most of their jobs only even exist because some old guy in the company wanted a new office ornament. Moving on to the lowest level of the org chart, this is the chump tier. This is where all of the actual work happens. Most chumps are normies, but not all of them. So basically the middle two tiers, the collector's tier and the girl boss tier, they are all normies. And the chump tier is mostly normies. And the exploiter tier is also mostly normies. It's pretty much all normies all the way down the chart, but some chumps and some exploiters aren't normies. So that's how a typical business works. As far as how everything's organized, that's the typical corporate structure we see these days in any corporate white-collar office environment. And I do feel bad for the chumps, which is why I am going to tell you how you can escape in just a minute. But some of the normie chumps, I can't really feel too bad for because, well, there's a mix, you know. Some normie chumps, especially in the blue-collar world, they are well aware that they're the chumps. They know they're being exploited. They're just resigned to their fate. And that I can respect. But the normie chumps that talk about, I love my job. I'm so blessed to be employed. I'm so blessed to have a good job. I don't feel too bad for those guys because they're just, look. Oh, I love having a job. Look. Oh, my vacation wasn't approved. Well, that's okay. Maybe next year. Look. Oh, no raise this year? Well, I guess at least they gave me this cool Yeti cup, you know, so all things considered, the company does take pretty good care of me. Look. Like, I really can't feel too bad for someone that's just singing the praises of this absolutely messed up system, while at the same time being brutally exploited by it. If you support the system you're in, when it's just fully taking advantage of you in every single way, then I don't even care if it's like, well, due to the material conditions under which he's forced to live, the poor normie chump can't even perceive his exploitation. I don't really care. I don't feel bad for you if that's your position. I think I just have a very low tolerance for that kind of extreme lack of critical thinking. But for all the chump tier job havers that know that they're getting screwed, but they just don't know what other options they have, well, you can just quit. You can quit. And you can try to start making YouTube videos or doing DoorDash or Uber or one of these other gig apps. But you're probably going to make a lot less money than you do in your 9 to 5. You might not be able to afford housing anymore. you might have to start sleeping in your car. Or what I would recommend, if you can, you should move in with your parents. Even if you have to pay them some rent, they'll probably let you move in with them for a lot less than you'd be paying for some ghetto-ass apartments. But maybe they'll let you move in for free. Basically, what I'm saying is, you can quit your soul-crushing 9-to-5 job, and you can probably make some money somehow using gig apps or YouTube or one of those sites like data annotation. But you're definitely not going to be making a lot, especially at first. If you get lucky, if you're doing YouTube, for example, you might catch a break and get big. I mean, even if you're only getting like 20,000 views per video, if you were making new videos almost every day, then that's actually not bad money. Easier said than done, obviously. I don't get that many views, but I think most people are under the impression that you need to be getting like 100,000 views per video before you'll be making any real money. But it's actually a lot less than that. So you can just quit your 9-to-5 job and lower your standard of living, probably by a lot. But if you're not a normie and you're really ambitious like I am, then maybe that's actually a good move for you. I don't recommend it. It just, generally speaking, I do not recommend quitting your 9-to-5 job if you don't have some kind of plan, by the way. So don't get me wrong, it is a bad idea for the vast majority of people. And another thing is, you will still have to work if you want money. Most of us can't just 100% freeload off our parents. If you can, then, I still don't recommend it, but I guess that is an option for some people. So I don't recommend quitting your 9-to-5 job if you're actually making good money. If you're not even making decent money though, like if you're only making $20 an hour or less, then yeah, in that case, I would recommend just quitting your 9-to-5 job. You might as well do Uber or something instead at that point, because you're already not making anything. So why be beholden to, having to deal with your boss and having to wake up to an alarm and having to be in a certain location at a certain time of day? Why put yourself through that for $20 an hour? You can actually probably make about that much working, just with some gig apps or whatever. My personal recommendation, if you go that route, would be to use dataannotation.tech. If you can write well, or if you know how to code, you can make decent money. Like you can probably make at least $20 an hour on that site. It's very boring, and it's certainly not for everybody. I've used it a little bit, so I know that it works, but it's not something I quit after not that long because it was just so boring. But you can probably make more money with that than you would doing Uber or something. Because the wear and tear you're putting on your vehicle and all the gas you got to keep buying and all that, you're not really going to be making that much with any kind of gig that requires you to use your own car. So you can quit if you want. I think most people already know being a chump is actually a better lifestyle for most men. I would say if you're just the lowest of the low, ugly, super high inhibition, can't get a date to save your life, etc., then, at that point, and I know from experience, it might feel like dropping out of the system altogether is the best option. And maybe it is, but if you can be a chump for, say $60,000 a year, that's not great, but it's a lot more than you'd be making if you left the chump lifestyle. So, honestly, it all just really fucking sucks. Our dads didn't have to live like this. Back in my dad's day, because he's talked to me about this plenty, he could make a decent living as a factory chump and still get married and support a family. Yes, he was a chump and he was miserable for a large part of his working life. You know, he's retired now, thankfully. But when he was working as a factory chump, at least he was able to find a woman to be with him until they got divorced, I guess. I mean, really, you know, when I think about it, maybe my dad didn't actually have it that great, but it really just goes to show just how bad things are for us now, because he did have it a whole lot better than I do, but he was still miserable. And, you know, I'm not trying to act superior to anyone else by calling everyone a chump. It's just a matter of fact. And I'm a chump too, I guess. I'm a YouTube chump. That's really not much better than being a 9-to-5 chump. The biggest benefit is just that theoretically I could get to sleep in if I wanted. I have to take care of a toddler though, so I don't actually get that luxury. But theoretically, a YouTube chump could, you know, just sleep in and work their own hour. You know, it is more flexible. It's more flexible. I obviously don't make much money. I would make more at a 9-to-5, but, you know. I think I've said enough for this one. 9-to-5 is just a place for normies to LARP and for chumps to suffer. It is an evil, despicable system built upon the idea of exploitation, but it is probably the best option for most of us just because, unfortunately, there's not a better option. So please watch some of my other videos if you like this one. I wrote a silly little comedy book if you want to check that out. You can get that on my Patreon, link in the description. And as always, thank you for watching.